Welcome back, everybody, to the Wild Faith Podcast. My name is Evan Bungham. I have my co-host Luke Timmons here with me today, and we are on the second episode of Chasing the Rut. We are getting to some really exciting times out in the Whitetail woods, and we have some awesome guests here this week, and we're just going to dive right into it. So, Luke, how are you doing today?
Doing good. We're finally getting some legit cold fronts, so it's
happening.
I'd say things are heating up, but they're cooling off, but heating up in the woods anyways.
That's right. Yeah, no, it's been an exciting last week here for me. It's been kind of a grind here the last, I would say, 2.5 weeks of trying to find a deer to kill, especially up north here on public ground. Back home, we talked about in the last podcast, we had a couple of our shooters finally show up, which is relieving to say the least. But, we've been kind of facing some warm weather and the drought we keep having, and everything's so dry, leaves are falling faster, and it's hard finding fresh sign. But I tell you what, it was like someone flipped a light switch this last week. And, after putting on probably 20, 25 miles of scouting and walking and changing a little bit of scenery, because, it's kind of surprising to me that there's a lot of bow hunters. Looking back here in the last 2 or 3 years, there has not been a lot of pressure in the area that I hunt. Mm-hmm. And man, I tell you what, I've never seen so many trucks in my life, which is a good thing. I'm excited. I love a little friendly competition, but it just took a little bit of change of scenery for me and with the high country, and started hunting the hills, and lo and behold, it was like finding a treasure chest, I must have found probably 15, 20 scrapes, bunch of fresh rubs, found the acorns, found some good food sources, and found water. And to say the least, I'm pretty excited here for these next couple weeks hunting up here in central Minnesota. So it should be good. And we got hunting back home. This is a big weekend here back home I think we'll be coming up on the weekend of the 26th.
Yep. Yeah. It'll be, like I said, cold front's blowing in, and it's kind of staying longer than, I think they originally talked 70s this weekend, but that's pushed off till kind of next week now, which will be nice. And yeah, it'll be, as long as the wind stays up. That's the one thing I'm worried about for the weekend, but you can't control the weather, so.
Can't control the weather. You know what? I look at it this way. If the weather's crap, we'll just go kill some pheasants.
Win-win. There you go.
Win. But yeah, no, it's go time. I mean, you'll hear it from our guests. We've got 3 awesome guests here this week, and we've got a bunch of guests lined up here for these next couple weeks, like we talked about. We'll be bringing this out all the way out through the full entirety of the rut. Probably be closing out the day before Thanksgiving. Be sure, once again, with this, follow, to be entered in the contest to win some free swag from the Wild Faith store. And we're also giving away a Havilon Piranta knife, the whole kit, kitchen caboodle. You're going to get the gut hook, and you're going to get the actual knife and some replacement blades, and you'd be good to go for the latter part of the season. So without further ado, let's bring in our guests.
All right. So we got Aaron here. Aaron, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you, Luke?
Good. Thanks for hopping on. So really want to bring you in. Obviously from what people can see from what's sitting behind you, you are a big buck slayer. So really wanted to get your input as far as kind of what you've been seeing so far this year.
So I hunted early season in that hot weather, basically for one deer. Kind of read the camera game, where you think early season they're predictable. I've never killed a deer early season. The 2 deer that particular deer was with both walked out 20 yards. He didn't show. So then I just kind of backed off. I hunted last week one day because he daylighted a couple times, and I had him at 70 yards.
Yep.
Big deer. Yeah, I mean, he was big. But it's the old wise tale, these deer get big because they're smart. And it was almost like he knew I was there. Couple other gentlemen that hunt the farm, they jumped in on him the next day, and he just went incognito for a couple of days. Had nothing, no pictures of him, nothing, So I just kind of bounced around for the next day and a half, different areas, hanging hunts, just quick setups. The mornings, I mean, it's so risky getting in the morning right now, not bumping these deer out.
What time of the year are you switching to mornings?
If I was going to hunt this weekend is when I start.
Okay. With this. Yeah. Okay.
If I'm looking harvest a doe,
Yeah.
I'll go into an area where I think it's strictly no bucks roaming right now, and I'll go and try in the morning and harvest the doe. That's kind of where I relate to the mornings.
Yep.
I've just done more damage over the years going all in, I'm going to hunt morning and I'm going to hunt evening, and we're down here every weekend and we're hunting and we're hunting and we're hunting, and we look at each other, the guy I hunt with at the end of October, and we're like, man, where did our deer go? Well,
I've been guilty of that. Yep.
You learned that you're doing more damage than good when it comes to trying to locate a mature deer.
Mm-hmm. So as far as, lately goes, as what's, is it, one, I don't know about you, but a lot of our, our two big, our two shooter bucks that we got rolling around right now are still pretty much, between that 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the morning, 10 PM to 2 AM time slot of showing up on camera. So when is, what is that? What are you seeing as far as on your end?
Barring the one deer that I saw, which is it's an older deer. I mean, its core area is super small. Other than that deer, these deer that we're hunting are so pressured. I mean, one farm we hunt has 7 or 8 guys that hunt it between crossbow and bow. So there's almost no way that I can pattern these high pressure deer. It's just a matter of getting out there when the time is right and setting up according to my thermals and the wind and travel around. If I know Luke's sitting over on the northwest corner, I'm going to hunt away because I'm going to get this deer. But overall, our bucks are bedded before daylight.
Yeah.
I mean, we got another buck that is a mature deer, and we got this deer coming to bed every day by 4:30 in the morning.
Huh.
I mean, we know where he's living, but he gets up 45 minutes after the sun sets, and he's back to bed before the sun comes up. Now, one hot doe may change that.
Yeah.
Last weekend when I did sit Luke, I had a 15-inch wide 8-pointer come 5 feet from the base of my tree, rub his hocks together, and just take off sprinting and grunting at a young doe.
Okay.
So it's starting to fire. I'm not going to go gung-ho until probably next weekend.
Okay. So so as far as, late October goes, are you, you're obviously switching up your early season tactics. What are you typically like looking for as, because do you hang and bang, or do you got kind of your primary spots?
I mean, I do hang and bang, but these deer on my wall have all been shot on stands that we have had hung for years.
Okay. Gotcha.
We've got so many stands and so many areas. Walk in public, and we hunt public. We hunt private, allowable walk-in. We hunt a lot of different ground, and I'm just not real efficient when it comes to climbing up, putting the sticks up, and this. I get bundled with 3 guys, so I have to have lots of clothes on. So I'd rather just go to my stuff, do all the prep work in the summer, and then just get in quiet and hunt.
So with all those different tree stands that you have, are there some that you start focusing more on this time of the year, and what is that? What do those kind of look like?
So a lot of the stuff we hunt is not open field edge. Big timber in hill country, and for the first 3-4 years we hunted field edges. Because the guy, he grew up in a different part of the state, and he hunted field edges and killed some big deer. I grew up hunting field edges in western Minnesota, and a big deer back there was 110 incher. I think I killed some big deer back there too,
Sure.
But we learned real fast that these mature bucks that we're hunting they literally don't step out in the field. They'll stand 15 yards inside a wood line until it's blackout before they come out. So they're set up on ridge lines, some people say you can't kill them in a bottom. Well, biggest deer I've seen killed, it was in a bottom. It was a 180s.
Wow.
It was shot in a gully and run a doe through it this time of year. I would say field edges, they start pulling corn off. Them does start to frequent those field edges. So we're just a field edge. That buck he'll shelter that doe, she'll be walking that field edge feeding, and he'll be 10 yards in that woods just sheltering her. Oh, when Aaron is sitting 10 yards in those woods, he's right there.
There you go.
That's kind of the tactic we play.
Sure. Perfect. And as far as, weather goes, obviously right now we got a nice cold front pushing in. So is that, those kind of those key things? What are you looking for?
Yeah, cold front's number one thing. You know, start running names like Mark Jury and all these guys that have been doing this decades. And that Mark Jury's always said, and the guy I hunt with says it too, first south wind after a north wind is time. Yeah. And for years I thought, that ain't true. Well, it's true. I mean, we've seen it this year with this big mature buck. It's every time it's a south wind after a north wind, he's daylighted. So necessarily non-mature deer, I don't know that plays a factor, but cold front for is number one thing. You know, the deer that they don't move well when it's calm. As much as it's miserable for me and you to sit in a tree stand when it's 25 mile an hour wind, that's when we're getting these deer.
Yep. Yeah, those calm days are the absolute. They're nice to sit because there's nothing, you know, you're not freezing, but yeah, there's not much moving around.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the high amount of pressure that we hunt around.
Absolutely, man. Well, like I said, I want to keep this short. Is there any last, like if you had to give somebody that's going to be getting out in the woods, because the nice thing with Minnesota this year is, gun openers a little bit later. So we kind of get to hunt.
Don't get out there now and hunt Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And then go, oh man, I'm burned out. I'm not seeing nothing. Because your best hunting is coming in my opinion, I've killed 2 deer on the 29th, but prior to 2 years ago, I never killed a deer before November 4th.
Okay.
So if I had to pick a week stretch to hunt for myself, it's probably November 4th through the 11th, 12th.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of, like I said, works out perfect for this year for bow, because gun doesn't open to the 9th here in Minnesota, so you got that whole 4th through the 8th to capitalize.
Absolutely, yeah. Cold front is the key. Cold front and north winds for me.
Awesome. Well, like I said, I want to keep this short because I know you're a super busy guy, and just appreciate you coming on. And we'll have to have you on for a full episode, and because there's a lot of big deer sitting behind you that we'd love to hear some stories on. So. Absolutely. Best of luck this year, and like I said, I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Luke.
Well, we want to bring in the local legend, my brother-in-law, Andrew Murray. Andrew, how are we doing today?
Good. I'm doing awesome.
Love it. Well, I appreciate you taking time to hop on here out of your busy day. But we wanted to pick your brain here, Central Minnesota. And I know you just got done doing a youth hunt, and congrats to Jack and to Liv and to Emmy. All the kids got bucks. Super exciting. But maybe just give us a little bit of background for the listeners. I know you've been on the podcast here a couple of times, but just give us a little background on yourself.
Yep. I live and work here in Brainerd. I do everything that all the normal people have. I've got a full-time job. I help coach hockey, spend a lot of time with that, and also just a super serious, passionate hunter. Owner of AVO Outfitters, which we've been a lot quieter these days, but we still are there. And so we've got a lot of videos and content that you have been a part of with that. And spend most of my time now hunting here locally, with my kids being busy with sports and activities. I take the limited time that I have and go find spots here locally and track and find the biggest bucks I can.
Love that. So with Chasing the Rut, what our goal is, we say it every time, we're trying to bring everything that's happening week to week in the whitetail woods kind of throughout the latter part of the rut. So being that you have been out and about, and if you want to talk about the kids hunt, you certainly can, but just tell us what's going on. I mean, like looking at the date right now, we're in October 20s. What do you got going on for whitetail woods? Have you been seeing any sign, any scrapes, any rubs? What's happening out in the woods?
Yeah. I mean, starting in late September, all of my sort of traditional community scrapes, started to get pretty active. And then, now it's been quieter for a bit. I was just back out yesterday, clearing out a new stand location that I've identified. I have 2 sort of major target bucks this year, one is in the 140 class and one is probably in the 160 class. And I definitely am starting to see a couple more, I would call them satellite scrapes, popping up, scrapes that are, outside of where those bigger community scrapes are. It's hard because we have just recently lost about 75% of our leaves here in northern Minnesota with a bunch of wind and dry weather. And so it's hard to, you really have to be on fresh sign to know what's going on. But, just even from the overnight activity, I'm starting to see a few more of those pop up. And I expect that that's going to continue to improve. A lot more nocturnal activity, but that's going to continue to improve here definitely through Halloween next week, and then get ready for the big show.
Awesome. I love it. So with that too, being that mentioned scrapes and you talk about with the weather that we have happening right now, what are some strategies that you're trying to, imply for this time of year right now?
Yeah. So for me, I think for us in, central / northern Minnesota, for me right now, I'm still trying to kind of figure out and pattern where this buck's bedding area is, because a lot of the activity that I'm seeing is definitely late at night. We had just a bumper acorn crop here this year, so there's ample food source. The one thing that's unique for us right now is I'm trying to find water. Anywhere where we have water right now is definitely a stopping point. It seems like they might pop up and eat a little bit, and then they're heading right to a water source. So I've repositioned my cameras to focus a little bit more on that, and that's been successful for me just in terms of identifying some earlier movement. And then, also over the next week, the the work that I'll be putting in when I do sit is going to be, I'm definitely going to be sitting in areas where I'm hoping to see these bucks move through, but I'm also going to be just targeting areas where I can observe and try and get an idea of where these bucks are moving. I don't want to get too close to bedding right now. I'll save that for a more aggressive mood as we get closer to the rut.
Well, I think you hit on a really key thing right there. And if people don't know it, maybe across the Midwest, maybe it's just centrally located here in Minnesota, but we have gone through a quite significant drought. And I know we did just get a little bit of rainfall, and, rain's always a great thing. You got bucks freshen up, scrapes, and etc. But you talked really key there on talking about water sources. What are some things that you're looking for a water source? Is that like a stagnant pond? Is that a stream? Is it a swamp? What are those things that someone can look out and try to go find, because water is pretty sparse right now?
Right. Yeah, I think, for me, when I'm going into some of these areas that I'm looking at to hunt, it depends on what we've got. If there's an active moving water source, then I'm just trying to find that closer to bedding, closer to food sources. Where one of the areas I'm hunting right now, it's dried up for several miles out of what I would say is the main food source, which is just a green field. And so it's kind of trying to dissect, okay, where are they going from bedding, eating some acorns, and then moving to the water source and then to the green field? Or are they making their way to the green field and then all the way back to the water source later? And then what sort of activity am I finding between those two places? So I think for us in Minnesota right now, it's just finding, that's probably where that you can find the most recent sign, because of around the water source. If the leaves are really turned up, or if there's enough mud or stagnant water where you can see the active footprints there, that's probably one of the only areas right now where I've been able to find, significant sign where I can tell it's fresh, right?
No, that's some great advice. And yeah, it's definitely interesting throwing a drought into it and then praying that we can actually have a front come through and we get these mini fronts. And I know I look at water in our home farm. It's such an essential part of what we have for our layout and how our stands are put out. And especially as the rut starts picking up, I know once I get bucks hitting water midday or mid-morning, I know that the rut's pretty much kicking in the full swing. So right. Sounds like you have a pretty exciting next couple of weeks coming up. Maybe just give us a little bit, like what's in the plan for the books. I know you're busy coaching and everything, and you still manage to get it done year in, year out. So what are some plans here for the next week or 2 weeks?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I've been on a little bit of a dry streak. Missed my target with the bow last year. I think it's just, for me, it's just going to be really taking advantage of the opportunities I get, and I run cell cams, and I'm big on relocating and being aggressive over the next few weeks on where I'm going to put those and make sure I'm dialed in on where that buck is going to be. I'm okay with bumping other deer on public land if I get closer to where my target's going to be. So The next 2 weeks are going to be, it's going to be a lot of moving, and making sure that I'm narrowing in on where that buck is at. Right. So, I got a lot of land to work with. I have two now main sets that are ready to go that I can just hop in. One of them on or near a water source, but then I also have sort of my active set that's ready to change in case, I find something else, or I just have a feeling of another place it's going to be. And I think that the last thing that I've learned over the last 3 years chasing some large bucks is just, there's a lot of guys that I talk to that say, "Oh, I didn't go out tonight because it was windy," or "I didn't go out tonight, it was too hot." And as we push closer to the rut, you just don't know. For example, I just had on one of my larger bucks on camera that was definitely moving some does around the other night. Right? You don't know when that first doe is going to come at estrus, and if you're chasing a mature buck, he is going to find that first doe. I think here we have does that are coming into estrus, in late October, at least the first ones. And so you have to be, if you have the opportunity or the time to get in the stand and you're on a good buck, as long as the wind is right, you got to get in the stand. You got to hunt them.
No, and I think that brings up a good point. One of maybe my last questions here, and we'll let you get back to your day. But you said it earlier, and it's always the high risk reward situation. And for preferably for me, I love hunting the late part of October. It's probably my favorite time of the year, even more so than November. But you talked about playing a little bit of game of cat and mouse with running cameras and just kind of being strategic when you are going in there. But being the fact that, you are hunting public land, same thing for me here in central Minnesota. When is that time to attack? When is that time to get in the woods and just, is there a set date that you're going off of, or is there a set time that you're going off of, or is it a cold front coming through? When is it that you're saying, I'm going in and I'm killing that buck tonight?
Right. Yeah, I would say barring any cold fronts, which it looks like we have a kind of a stable weather pattern for the most part coming up. It's definitely for me like Halloween, October 31st. Maybe a day or two before that, running through. Here in Minnesota, at least that first weekend of rifle season. That's sort of my 7 days there that I really am going to take every opportunity to get in the woods, even if it's in the middle of the day. I killed a buck on public land just down the road from my house, where my wife's parents took my kids off for a few hours when they were younger, and I hopped in the woods and rattled for a little bit and shot a little 8-pointer that came through. And so literally it's just taking the time to get in the woods and be in the stand as many hours as you can, and be aggressive. Right? We have to be aggressive, and you have to be willing to move, to relocate, to put yourself. If you're not seeing deer, you got to move. You got to get in a spot where the deer are, because they are going to be up and moving during that time frame. You just got to be in the right place. You got to know where they're at.
Love it. Love it. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and hopping on here and pouring a little bit of wisdom down to us. And good luck here these next couple of weeks.
Yeah, thanks. Good luck to you. Good luck, everybody that's listening. Be safe out there and have fun.
Well, guys, we're going to go ahead and bring in a local favorite who has not been shy to come on our show, and we appreciate him for taking all the time out of his day to come out here and to give us some wisdom. So without further ado, Nick Thompson, how are we doing today?
I'm good, Evan. How are you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. You're looking better than me. It looks like you just got back from hunting.
I sure did. It was a big cold front here in mid to late October, so I had to be in the stand tonight.
Well, I love it. I love it. And we just want to thank you again for hopping on the podcast. Like I said, you've been on a couple of times now, and we appreciate all the support and wisdom that you've been giving out. But like we say every time, we're kind of diving in for Chasing the Rut series here, and we just want to get what's going on in the woods, Whitetail Woods, southeastern Minnesota. I mean, I think the dates were like mid-October, October 20th, right in there. And what's happening?
Yep. So, southeast Minnesota, wonderful, wonderful area to deer hunt. It's just, it can get magical at sometimes. Had a pretty good season last year, hoping to repeat that again this year. Have had a pretty eventful season so far this year. Just really, really hunting the weather. I want to get out to the woods more, but I'm really, really leaning more. The older I get, I tend to not go out to the woods unless it's favorable weather. And that's the biggest thing is playing the weather, playing the wind. And if I don't have the right wind, I'm not going to sit. If I don't have, the corresponding weather that will follow, I'm not going to sit. So it's been a really tough year as far as weather goes. It's been dry. I don't think we've had rain in 2 months here in southeast Minnesota. I don't know what it's like up north for
Dry.
you. Yeah, I mean, we haven't had rain. So been able to sit, by some water this year. Most of my properties, I hunt by a river, which is really nice. Natural springs, so I don't really have to do a lot of hunting over water holes or anything like that. I can hunt. I got a setup actually just right by a natural spring that turns into like a 6-foot puddle, which is pretty nice. So being able to hunt over those, seeing a lot of deer this year, which has been very nice. A lot of younger class bucks in daylight as of, the last couple weeks. But as we ramp up, from October 18th, I think I've had 9 different bucks now on camera show up. The corn's getting picked. So I think that's a big thing. Once the corn gets picked, they don't have really anywhere to hide. So they got to move to the woods. So that's been, really promising. I've had 3 different shooters come in twice now, 2 times now, I should say. They got saved by legal shooting light. And then the other time I had legal shooting light, but there was just too much foliage and I didn't have my sight light on.
Oh boy.
Didn't have the batteries. They died. So I drew back and I just couldn't see my pins and I didn't want to obviously make a bad shot on the deer. So as I was saying, a couple different of my properties, I can hunt 5 different permission pieces, one of which is my family farm. So I've had some pretty good success door knocking, asking for permission, obviously offering some help, some wild game. Anytime I can come out and help, with those permission pieces I've been able to do, but it's been a good season so far. I've shot 2 does. So being able to fill the freezer, which has been very, very nice. But now that we're ramping up into late October, I'm starting to get the itch and getting
it's game
excited.
time.
It is game time.
So tell me a little bit more about are you starting to see, this is usually typical time now where you're going to start seeing a lot of sign popping up. Have you noticed anything going on in the woods?
So one of my favorite properties that I hunt is a big, big oak flat. It probably runs half a mile long and probably a quarter of a mile wide. And it's just a huge oak flat. There's some, sinkholes and stuff in there. Not a lot of structure, terrain, differential, but about 2 weeks ago, I made a move in. I was actually going to hunt some turkeys. And on my way into that oak flat, I noticed, 15, 20 different rubs. Not a lot of scrapes, but a lot of rubs. They've been hitting the mock scrapes, the vine scrapes and stuff, but I hadn't seen a lot of scrapes starting to open. And then just yesterday evening, prior to this front moving in, I ended up making a set and did a hang and hunt over a river. And on my way in, noticed 3 different scrapes that had just opened up that I had not seen in the past. And then sitting tonight, I sat over 2 scrapes that just opened up, ended up moving a cell cam over one of them. So pretty excited to see kind of where that's going. But the sign has started to increase. I think it's right around the same time as it usually always does down here in southeast Minnesota. Right around the 18th of October, I really start to see the bucks moving, really start to see the scrapes opening up. The rubs are always going to be there. I feel like they kind of rub all season long, but the scrapes really do start to open up in some very, very good areas. And that's kind of a main focus here. And, the latter half of October is just sitting over those active, big new scrapes, not those little scrapes in the woods, but I like to hunt
those community style
the big community style scrapes. I really like to make sits over. So got some pretty good locations for those that have opened up, but I haven't been on 4 of the other properties yet to kind of even tell. Not making an aggressive move just yet, but I'm assuming that we'll start making that leeway here soon.
So what are some of your key strategies that you're implementing now? Like we keep saying that we're in this, mid-October, almost on the cusp of what I would consider the very beginnings of the pre-rut here, being we're a week out from Halloween. What are some key strategies that you're implementing now to go out and kill?
So for me, with having a couple different properties, it it gets to be challenging. I'm not a big one on running trail cameras. This year I'm running some trail cameras. I, have some help with a friend, a local guy, Noah Timmons, has helped me out. He's hunting with me this year. So we added 2 cell cams on 2 different properties. So we're really monitoring the cell camera, the activity, just trying to see if deer are starting to daylight, if bucks are starting to daylight. So right now, as we get into, middle of the October 20th, it's the 23rd today, I believe. It's a lot just monitoring the activity and not making that gigantic push into thick bedding just yet. The bucks are going to start, ramping up. They're going to start getting thicker. So hunting those community scrapes if you can, but making sure that the weather corresponds to what you're going to deal with. I mean, you got to move in on a nice front. You can't just go in to go in. That's something that I've learned over the years. And as I've, progressed as a hunter, I feel like I've been able to see a lot more activity, daylight movement, just because I'm not pressuring into the woods as much. So that's been a big thing for me, not pressuring in and just hunting the wind. I mean, that's the biggest thing. And then making sure your access in and out is impeccable, because they can educate deer real fast, especially here in October as we move towards the rut. We don't want to, push those bucks off the property or make them, into, nocturnal deer. Not a firm believer in the October lull. As I've gained as a hunter, grown as a hunter, started, studied the deer more, their movement, kind of what they're doing. I see very good activity any day during, anytime during October. It just comes down to what are you doing and what's your neighbor doing. If they're pressuring their deer onto you, and you don't want to pressure those deer anyways, because then they're gone. So just playing it safe, following the wind, following the weather, and hunting accordingly is what I follow here as we get into November.
So you talk, you're just kind of talking pretty tactically there of what you're trying to implement for right now. So being for someone who's looking to get out and hunt right now, and you have a unique perspective because you're hunting farm country similar to what we hunt back home. What are some key locations
So
that
I'll
you're
use the
honing
one
in
that
on
I
right
sat
now?
tonight,
That's where
which
you
is
might
a great
find those
location.
community
Ended up seeing a
scrapes
lot
that
of
you can
deer, a
get set
couple
up
different
on.
younger bucks this morning. I sat in that property and actually had a good 2-year-old dog and a doe grunting on the way in, which was really cool to see. And I'm hunting the fringes of those bigger bedding areas that are coming from like a transition from food, whether it's acorn crop, whether it's, grasses, whether it's a destination food like beans or corn. Most of them are getting picked right now. And really trying to find those active scrapes, those good funnels between, whatever type of food you're going to be hunting into those bedding areas, but not pushing into the bedding areas just yet. I think that if you do go pushing into those bedding areas, you're going to bump deer that aren't there, and they're going to turn nocturnal, or they're going to leave. So being able to hunt that really good transition from food to bedding has been very important. So like tonight, I was hunting over some CRP between bedding, acorns, and CRP. The CRP, obviously, I think they bed in at night, like night. During the day, they're not there. So I'm making sure my wind's blowing over my back or into my face, out into the CRP. I'm hunting over a scrape, 20, 25 yards in front of me, and there's acorns in front of me. If you're going to hunt over water, make sure that you're on the downwind side of the water, being smart, being tactful, and then, studying your trail cameras if you do got them, and watching and learning what the deer are doing when they're moving. And I'm not a firm believer in the moon, but what's the moon doing? If you do believe in stuff like that. So just really being careful, and just know that it gets better as we progress into October. Don't push it just yet.
No, that's some really good advice. And, it's one of those things where we're so excited right now. And this is the time frame, for me, where it is all hands on deck. It's go time. But at the same point in time, for some of your best spots, it's just, we're not there yet. but we're getting there. You just got to be patient. But that's where like I like these, like you said it too, just sticking to the fringes, because if we get the right conditions that can all align, you're going to get some daylight walkers that are pushing those fringes where you're going to get an opportunity. But kind of going forward with that now, what are some of your plans here these next week?
Yeah, so one of the properties that I
just kind of give us the down low, what's in the docket,
deer last year.
We'll go from there.
I have not sat that property once this year. I'm letting it sit, letting it, just get primed up and ready. I'm starting to see a lot of activity on my trail cameras of some pretty good bucks. Ended up getting a nice mainframe 8. And he's got 4 different kickers all over. He's a very, very good deer, very mature. I think he's either 4 or 5. With the way that his body is, I'm leaning more towards 5, just with how big he is. I'll send you the photo later of this deer. He's very, very good. I don't recognize the deer. So this week, as we, progress into the weekend, I think I'm still going to hunt the fringes. Not observation sits, but I think what I am going to, lean more towards is starting to hunt those scrapes. If I get a good wind, here in Minnesota, we're dealing with, one day we'll get a good northwest wind, and then the next day we're dealing with a south or a southwest wind. And it's just, it's so variable. And a lot of the times it's either going to be 30 miles an hour or 5 miles an hour. So you're not really in that good window of 5 to 15 mile an hour winds that are consistent. So you really got to play it safe this next week. Once we get into more towards, the Halloween, as we get into the 1st, 2nd, 3rd November, you can start inching your way closer to those morning stands and bedding areas where the bucks are going to be looking, because you're going to get those old mature deer, those old big bucks. They're going to, probably are already searching right now. I think more at night, they're more moving, unless you got, impenetrable property, 400 plus acres, and every deer in the herd. But a lot of us around here hunt 10 to 20 to 30 acres. So if you can get a buck that doesn't move more than 5 acres, you're pretty well set. But realistically, once we get into that first, couple days in November, it can get pretty magical if you push in. And then following, that November 7th through the 15th, that is my favorite time to sit. That's when I see the most action on my properties. That's when I see the most running. In the mornings, bedding areas are fantastic. Hunting field edges in the evening over food. I get a lot of bucks that are going to be traveling. I hunt a lot of good travel corridors from thick timber to waterways and, just a lot of really cool different properties. And so not pushing into the mornings just yet until basically that November 1st, Halloween, November 1st is really when I'll start pushing mornings hard.
Well, Nick, it sounds like you have a pretty good bulletproof plan, and I wish you the best of luck. And we are excited to be posting pictures of a couple dead bucks here the next couple weeks. So good luck. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and hopping on and giving us some wisdom.
Absolutely, Evan. You take care now, okay? Good luck.
Thank you for joining us on this journey through faith and the great outdoors. We hope today's episode has inspired you to seek God's presence in the wilderness and deepen your connection with nature. If you enjoyed today's discussion, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to the Wild Faith Podcast on your favorite platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. By subscribing, you'll never miss an episode, and you'll continue to be a part of the Wild Faith Podcast community. We'd also love to hear from our listeners, so please don't hesitate to reach out with your questions, comments, or topic suggestions. You can connect with us on social media or through our website. Your feedback is important to us and helps us improve and tailor our content to better serve you. And always remember, the great outdoors isn't just a playground for hunting and fishing. It's a sanctuary for finding solace and spiritual renewal. As you gear up for that next adventure, I pray you find God's presence in the crackling of a campfire, the thrill of reeling in your catch, or the quiet solitude found in nature. Until next time, thank you for listening to the Wild Faith Podcast. Take care, and God bless.